You want to know what real power feels like. It's waking up at dawn to the growl of a bulldozer rolling toward your family's legacy. Then realizing the very thing your enemy is about to destroy is the one thing that gives you more leverage than they'll ever have. That's how my war with the HOA started. Right there on the lake my great-grandfather tamed with his bare hands. The same lake they thought they owned just because they had money, rules, and a little brass nameplate that said President. You ever had one of those moments that flips your entire life upside down before your coffee even gets cold? That was me. Jake Morrison, civil engineer, grandson, reluctant warrior, and suddenly the only person standing between a greedy HOA and the bridge my great-grandfather Samuel built in 1923, the bridge that had been the heart of our community long before any luxury resort was a twinkle in a realtor's I'm not kidding. This bridge was more than stone and mortar. It was history, sweat, memory, the kind of thing you fight for, even if you know the odds are stacked against you. But Linda Prescott, picture a woman who'd wear pearls to dig up weeds. She didn't see legacy. She saw an eyesore, a threat to her precious Whispering Pines image, something to bulldoze on her way to another ribbon cutting. And you know what? She thought her HOA bylaws gave her the right to tear it all down. She didn't know a damn thing about water rights, or about Morrison's stubbornness, or about the fact that I'd just inherited the keys to the dam and, with it, the legal right to control the lake her whole multi-million-dollar resort depended on. But let me back up a sec. This all started when I got that certified letter, heavy envelope, official letterhead, the kind that ruins your whole morning before you've even opened it. Linda's friendly notice. My bridge was in violation of HOA standards. Fine stacking up, 30 days to remove it or else. I laughed at first. Seriously, this bridge was older than the HOA, older than the paved road she drove her BMW on, older than the manicured lawns she made everyone keep trimmed to 3 inches or else. But laughter faded as the threats piled up. Security patrols at dawn, citation after citation for nonsense like mailbox color, the size of my welcome mat, even a fishing net left out overnight. Rick, Linda's husband, ran the security company that enforced the rules, but when I checked, his license had expired. Illegal, every bit of it. That's when I realized this wasn't about community or even about rules. This was about power. Who had it, who could bend it, and who got crushed underneath it.so. I started digging. Boxes of old documents, deeds, original surveys, musty paper, legal language, and there it was, the grandfathering clause that made my bridge untouchable, original water rights my great-grandfather carved out of nothing, and blueprints of a lake system that predated every luxury home for miles. At the next HOA meeting, I laid out my cards, legal documents, maps, everything. Linda smiled that sugar-sweet smile, leaned in, and told me times change, progress requires sacrifice. The board voted against me, 5-2, and I walked out into the Texas heat, gravel crunching under my boots, knowing I was in for the fight of my life. It got ugly fast. $1,200 in fines in 3 weeks, anonymous complaints to the county, whispers at the hardware store, neighbors who'd wave 1 week and glare the next. My wife, Sarah, God bless her, tried to keep my spirits up, but the pressure was getting to both of us. Linda wasn't just content to bully us. She weaponized the community, spreading rumors, even trying to get me labeled a threat. But as an engineer, I know one thing. Systems have vulnerabilities, and every bully makes mistakes when they get too confident. Digging through county archives, I discovered something Linda never bothered to understand. My great-grandfather's bridge wasn't just a crossing. It was a control structure. He held water management rights for the whole lake, and I'd inherited those rights, with the legal authority to manage the dam and, if I wanted, to drain the lake. Twist of fate, right? The resort Linda loved so much, the one that needed full water levels to keep its $4 million bank loan, was built on the assumption the water would always stay put. If I lowered the lake, even by 18 inches, their entire loan could be called due, hundreds of thousands in deposits lost, the grand opening ruined. It was more power than I ever wanted, but she'd left me no choice. Linda escalated, filed for a restraining order, got the county involved, even tried to bribe Tom Rodriguez, a resort employee, to sabotage the dam and blame it on me. She paid her own husband's company and her brother-in-law with HOA funds, and I documented every bit of it. When she called an emergency vote to demolish my bridge, tacked $15,000 removal fees to my account, and threatened a lien on my home, I filed for an emergency injunction, got it granted, and put demolition on hold. You think that'd slow her down? Not Linda. She called in a federal law firm, accused me of environmental terrorism, got me arrested on trumped-up charges. But thanks to Patricia, my water rights attorney, we turned the restraining order into federal recognition of my claim. Linda brought in private security, got the media whipped into a frenzy, painted me as a terrorist on TV, but the publicity backfired, rallying property rights advocates and environmental groups to my side, splitting the community between those who valued history and those terrified their property values would tank. Meanwhile, I studied every inch of that dam, met with Frank Wilson, the old dam operator who'd learned from my grandfather, and got his blessing to take over. Then, the smoking gun, Tom Rodriguez, wearing a wire, caught Linda offering him $15,000 to commit sabotage. With that recording, everything changed. The county sheriff refused to intervene. Federal water rights trumped local law, and I had the documents to prove it. The day of the final showdown, the whole town gathered. News crews, deputies, Linda with her security detail, investors nervously counting dollars in the background. That I stood at the dam with Patricia and Frank, folder in hand, cameras rolling, the sheriff reading my authority and nodding for me to proceed. Linda tried one last desperate speech. People like him don't belong here. But this time, her words rang hollow. I knelt down, unscrewed the panel, and turned the old brass wheel, the sound echoing off the concrete like a church bell. Water rushed through the secondary channels. The lake dropped 18 inches in 6 hours, and the resort's grand opening was sunk, literally. Their loan got called. Investors demanded answers, and suddenly, compromise didn't seem so unreasonable. Within weeks, the new HOA board, led by Mrs. Chun and Tom, cut a deal. My bridge became a protected historic landmark. I guaranteed stable water levels for the resort, and Linda? She packed up, left for Arizona, facing federal charges for bribery and embezzlement. Rick lost his licenses, their house went up for sale, and for the first time in years, our little lake community found its soul again. The Morrison Bridge Historic District drew more tourists than the resort ever could. Property values rose, and the local school got a boost from the new scholarship Sarah and I started, funded by speaking fees from water rights conferences. Some mornings, I still walk the bridge and imagine my great-grandfather watching, shaking his head at all this nonsense, proud that what he built with sweat and stone outlasted every petty tyrant. My neighbors call on me for advice. My wife's laughter fills the cabin, and the sound of water lapping against the dock is sweeter than any applause. The state legislature passed the Morrison Act, protecting historic water rights, and my bridge landed on the National Register of Historic Places. But if you think this was just about me or my family, think again. There are Lindas everywhere, and the only thing that stands between them and your history is how much you know, how hard you're willing to fight, and whether you believe legacy is worth more than profit. If you've got your own HOA nightmare, drop it in the comments. I read every story, and maybe I can help you find your leverage. And if you want to hear how an old mineral rights loophole saved a farm from eminent domain, hit subscribe, because some wars are won not by the loudest voice, but by the one who understands the ground they stand on.